Okay. I am calling the Marvin Planning Board meeting of May 19th, 2026 to order. We have a quorum. We are missing Chris, but he will be joining us, well, he will eventually be joining us in person. Until then, though, board, we need to consider allowing remote participation until he gets here, so we would need a motion and a vote.
I motion that he's allowed to join remotely.
All right, do we have a second?
A second.
All right. We don't need a second. Oh, Lord, I'm never gonna, it's been drilled into me too many years. So all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so when he is on, just let me know. All right, adoption of the previous minutes. Does anyone have any questions, comments, changes to the 421 minutes?
So I had one comment on the minutes. It stated that we were talking about the materials and colors, and what I remember and us focusing on was the architectural style.
Needs to be directed towards.
So, Hunter, I believe what you told us is that we don't have control over materials or color, and so we focused on the difference between French country and modern architectural styles.
No, what the clarification was for the architectural design was mainly that the intent of their conceptual drawings and what they were proposing is the main focus is actually to look at making sure that the materials and kind of all that match up with what they were proposing, not necessarily the direct architectural different stylage there. I haven't read the minutes, so I'm not 100% sure on what they read, but.
The minutes state that we were focused on the materials and the colors. So I'm just asking that we put in the architectural design of the conceptual draft that was French country versus the current design, which we believed was more modern.
We can make that change if someone wants to just make a motion to adopt as amended.
Okay, I will make a motion to adopt as amended.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved. Do we have anyone for public comment?
You do? You need to, did you approve the agenda? Did you skip over that?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
She's using a motion to adopt the agenda.
Yeah, a motion to adopt I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
For public comment, Kim Vandenberg, 806 Cappington Lane. And then Kim, just hit the button.
Good. Good evening, Kim Vandenberg, 806 Cappington Lane. First, I'm going to start every public comment this way. I want to thank Fred Illarazza for calling me to confirm all of council supported me in the pending lawsuit. Thank you for making that call. I want to discuss two recent planning board appointments, Chris Day, who is unfortunately not here to hear this, and Kristen Conway. Chris Day, congratulations. You are obviously a smart, intelligent man, but what was not impressive is how you chose to show it at your first meeting. Rude, condescending, and dismissive toward your fellow board members, the developers here presenting, staff, and anyone you decided to interrupt. That's not leadership, it's amateur hour. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And the cheap shot at John Jones on his way out the door wasn't necessary. John didn't call you a yes man. He said that's what this council wants, and their conduct to date proves it. If you took that personally, that's on you. It came across thin-skinned and petty on your first night. And frankly, without people like John, most of you wouldn't even be living in Marvin. Don't confuse arrogance with authority. Kristen Conway, a donor to the council who appointed her. Different problem, equally concerning. During the meeting, multiple participants noticed, and several raised it to staff, that Kristen was looking at her phone immediately before asking questions and making statements. The pattern strongly suggested she was being fed information. I can't confirm it, but enough people saw that it has to be said out loud. So, Kristen, which is it? Either you were getting help or you weren't paying attention. There's no third answer, and neither one belongs on the planning board. What's worse is what you're doing with the preserve trail easement. You're pushing a scared tactic narrative around liability. Manufactured exposure designed to justify returning the preserve trail to her own HOA. Christina Amos, the manager, already addressed this in September of 25. Your concerns overlook the liability protections under North Carolina law. North Carolina's recreational use statute provides significant protections to landowners who make available for recreational use without charging a fee. The purpose of the statute is to encourage recreational access by limiting a landowner's liability exposure, except in limited circumstances such as willful or malicious conduct. As a result, the broad liability concerns being presented do not accurately reflect the legal protections that already exist for recreational trail use. And you did not bring this to your full HOA membership, and we all know why. Many of your neighbors want the trail to stay, so instead you're preaching gang mentality to scare people you're trying to influence. A completely false narrative. To manufacture a result the membership wouldn't deliver on its own if they knew the truth. It's underhanded. All of this while the council preached its ethics and civility on your brand, Marvin United. And then there are these appointments and this behavior you put forward. Council doesn't get to lecture residents on tone and integrity while the people you appoint behave like this. As Tom Eck likes to say, step up or step aside. See you at the next meeting.
That is all. Madam Chair, you may proceed.
All right. Moving on to unfinished business, so the discussion of CZ 2026-1, the Let property. We are not voting on this tonight. I'm assuming that we will be listening to updates.
Yeah, so tonight, we're gonna, the applicant has made changes to their proposal. I'm gonna let them kind of present that, and then I'm gonna go through my current draft of my staff report. Any action's not being taken tonight as we finalize the conditions as well as the applicant finishes their development agreement, which is required per the MDO. All of that should then be in front of you for the June meeting to make your guys' recommendation at that meeting. So with that being said, Lisa, you want to, I'll let the applicant start, and then we'll get into my staff report.
Oh, Rob, turn on the mic. Yeah. Just hit the button. There it goes.
How's that? Better? I'm Rob Kreischer with Jones Homes. Excited to be in front of you guys. We try to take what we heard, and ladies, what we heard last time and make some changes to it. We're really excited about the plan. We've taken on basically 25 acres. We now have 24 homes. The homes, we changed the side setbacks to 12 and a half. We kept the same building pad, which is a 60 by 60 building pad, changed the side setbacks to 12 and a half feet, so there's 25 feet between the sides of each home. We've maintained over 50% open space. One of the questions, or two of the questions about easements that came up in the last meeting, as far as the sewer easement, I have not spoken to the Metal Arc folks. They wanted to see what would happen through, I have spoke to them a couple months ago, but I haven't spoken to them since because they want to see where it ultimately ends up. The road easement, our counsel for Jones Homes has reviewed it and the deed and is of the belief that we have ingress, egress, and regress based on the recorded deed. So I want to make sure that I pass that on to you folks.
Which deed is that?
Can you see that deed?
I'm just wondering could you just refer to the name of the deed? Is it the Carolina Development deed? Is it the Let deed? Is it?
Well, I'm going to answer it. I'd be happy to show you I'll be happy to provide it for you, what he looked at.
Yep, that works.
Because what I did, Kelly, is I just make sure that I get the legal opinion on it versus me trying to do it. But I'd be happy to forward it to Hunter and have him forward it to all of you. So,
Just curious, John, is there an RMA included with that?
is there, I'm sorry.
RMA, road maintenance agreement?
For Metal Arc, I don't even know that answer.
Okay.
There's a lot of different documents regarding Metal Arc's road. And I know that's what came up at part of the last meeting. So I'm not aware of such documentation for that.
Okay, just curious, just for maintenance, repair.
So, but I'll provide you guys with the deed that he gave me the opinion on. And I think the first one was in you probably know better than me, but the first one was in 1980. It started in 1980, but
I don't know, I wasn't born yet. That's not true, sorry.
I was,
So was I, it's okay, I was too.
unfortunately. So, but I did get that legal opinion from him last week, and I don't try to interpret those, but I would be happy to provide it for Hunter, so you guys will see what that deed is. So then I'll turn it over to, I've got Lisa Thompson here. You are probably familiar with her. She was planner here at in Marvin. She is with Moore Van Allen, who is our land use attorneys. And then Mark Kime with CEC, who is our engineer. They're going to show you the new site plan. We also were able to save the pond with this, the entire pond with this site plan. And again, whatever, to reiterate, whatever you all want to do with the home that's on there, we can do. This site plan is treated as if the home is gone. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Lisa and Mark. Thank you.
Hunter, is there a clicker? Thank you. Good evening, Chair, board members. My name is Lisa Thompson. I'm a land use consultant with Moore & Van Allen. Happy to be here this evening. I only have 3 slides, so I don't want to repeat anything that was said last week, just to go over some of the changes that Rob mentioned. Oh, this is an old.
This is the one you sent me.
One moment.
Give me 1 second here. I got it. That was weird.
The deed mentioned, I do have a copy of it. It's recorded in the Union County Register of Deeds. It's a general warranty deed. It's book number 374, page 530. There's another one recorded right after 374, page 534. Good, thank you. All right, so the slides, site plan on the left is our initial submittal. It was 29 lots. We are now down to 24 lots. That lot width was 70 feet wide. We are now up to 85 feet wide. Side yard setback was 5 feet with a 10-foot separation. As Rob mentioned, we're now 12 and a half feet with a 25-foot separation. Open space has increased, tree safe has increased while keeping those buffers the same and intact. Lot size, we went from a minimum of 10,000. Our smallest lot size is now 12,510 square feet, but we average about 14,240 square feet, so above that quarter-acre lot size. We're really excited how the plan is shaping up. This is a pointer. We removed the lot that was kind of in the center here. So as you're entering off of Meadowlark, you pull in and you see this open space with tree safe. So that's a really good terminal vista as you're entering into the site. The other big change is by reducing the lots from 26 to 24, we were able to remove this stormwater pond here on the bottom left. So there was some significant trees in that area that we now can save. I believe we're saving 5 of the 7 heritage or significant trees. I know that was a big deal. And then the last slide is for us to reference, showing the removal of that pond to the left and the additional tree save that causes. But with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Happy to come back after Hunter does his staff report, however you guys would like to move forward.
Any questions?
I have 2, and a thank you. So first of all, thank you for answering the questions on the sewer easement and the ingress egress. Those were 2 questions, so thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. I did have 2 questions for you on on the GPR vendor that, and I don't know if that would be better for Rob to answer or your engineer? Yes. So the GPR vendor, did they have an archaeologist do the GPR study of the behind the graveyard?
So do they do what now? I'm sorry. Ken.
Did you have an archaeologist do the graveyard study?
No, we didn't need, it's not required. What we did was the church reached out to us and they spoke that night and they were concerned, they were concerned. I spoke with Vivian Presley on May 11th, who represents the church. She was asked to be the church representative for that. She contacted me on May 11th. We spoke. She said she'd be happy to attend this public meeting, to let you all know that the church was very happy with what we did, and the church considers it a closed matter.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for following up with them. I do want to point out the Secretary of the Interior standards per 36 CFR Part 61. They do require that an archaeologist do those GPR studies when it's pre-emancipation graves. Has that?
Can you say that again? I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, so the Secretary of Interior standards.
No, I heard that part.
Okay,
Yeah.
they require an archaeologist if it's pre-emancipation graves. And there are pre-emancipation graves in that graveyard.
They require an archaeologist to do
The
what?
GPR study.
Okay, and what triggered the?
The applicant, so a GPR study is not required by the village. It would only be required in most cases in the sense of, I mean, basically for this property would be if their 404 permit for wetland disturbance in coordination with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. However, the applicant decided to go ahead and do an initial study up front based off the feedback that was received at the neighborhood meeting. So regarding the state's preservation office requirements, that's out of our purview. It's still something that, yes, the applicant could look to do further, but that's nothing that we can require unless they agree upon it.
So my only other piece of that, Rob, is just to state that with graves of that level, you do have to clear brush. Was brush cleared when the utility company did the GPR?
What I do is when we have things like this, Chris and I hire professionals, and that's their job. It's just like when I get operated on, I don't ask a surgeon, if he's certified to do it. And I'm not trying to be smart with this answer, but that's who we hired. We hire people who do it, and so I leave it up to them since they're certified to do it. So they provided me the report that we did again on our own, and the church was very happy with it. So
Okay.
I have to rely on the report that they do.
Sure. Would you be willing to look at SHPO's guidelines for pre-emancipation graves in a conditional zoning to make sure that we don't disturb those sites?
If council asked that as a condition of zoning, I would consider it.
Okay, thank you very much.
You want to add your?
I can go through my staff reports so far. So let me, just pull it up 1 second. Just gonna pull up the site plan for you guys, so you guys have it right here in front of you. Let's see if my computer decide, what do you know? I'm actually just gonna use this for the time being.
No,
Okay.
right.
So, just going through my formal report here. So, Jones Homes, the applicant, has submitted this conditional rezoning application to rezone the 24.151 acre property there off of Newtown from rural residential to the Marvin Heritage District. Their current proposal now is for a major subdivision of 24 detached single-family homes. So this kind of already mentioned a lot of this, but this is now significantly kind of changed from their initial submittal down from 29 to 24, which is yielding a 0.99 dwelling units per acre. They have also increased their minimum lot size from 10,000 to 12,000. Once again, those are minimums. And as Lisa mentioned, the average is up to almost 1/3 of an acre. their lot widths have went from 70 to 85, as well as their setbacks from 5 to 12.5 on the side, which is a minimum of 25 feet in building separation. So just kind of getting into the kind of overview with this is that the proposed development, Mark, on the plans had 10.58 acres or 43.8% of open space. I know that Lisa was mentioning that was 50 up to 54. I think the calculation did not include the pond. Okay. So even though the open space from a percentage standpoint, from a technical standpoint, it's still above our minimum at 30%, and it's just because they've taken out the calculation that they originally had for the existing pond as well as the stormwater pond in that acreage. But it's not meaning that other land is being disturbed now. But that is above our minimum of 30% per the MDO. Regarding greenways and sidewalks, the development will have internal sidewalk and internal walking trail around the existing pond. The applicant is also proposing to construct a trail construction along Newtown Road, kind of shown on the top left corner of the property to connect into having a future connection across the roundabout to connect with the proposed Marvin Loop in that area if it gets constructed, but as well as tying to the existing Heritage at Marvin trail there. The applicant has also proposed, in the event that the village would prefer to construct the portion of the Marvin Loop in that area, that they would consider doing a fee in lieu that would be mutually agreed upon. Regarding buffers, the developer now, so the proposed development has a 100-foot there landscape buffer along the south side of the property adjacent to Meadowlark, a 70-foot landscape buffer along the eastern side of the property adjacent to Three Pond Acres. And at the northern side, it's between 40 and 50 feet of a buffer along Newtown Road and the existing grave site, and then 60 feet along the Meadowlark Lane side. And the applicant also stated in their development plan that no more than 50% of the buffer area may be disturbed during the development, and existing trees may be counted towards the overall planting requirements. And just for a note, if the village determines that if the proposed rezoning gets approved and they move forward with construction, if they do not meet that 95% opaqueness requirement, they would have to obviously suffice that during that time, with additional buffer and vegetation to be installed. Regarding tree preservation, here for this one. The applicant is proposing, like I said, to disturb as little as possible with this. They also are proposing 1.53 acres of tree conservation area, which is basically going to be in the south side right here. Once again, all the trees within the buffer are also being proposed to remain. It's just, with certain grading for the proposed lots, also infrastructure, there may be some that would be removed. But another key factor there is with their reduction of one of their stormwater ponds, it does allow for them to preserve some of there was some significant heritage trees that are on the site. Access and roads. So it's being proposed to be accessed off of a single ingress-egress road from Meadowlark Lane there. The applicant did submit a transportation technical memorandum, which identified that the proposed development has a potential to generate 24 to 31 net new external trips during AM and PM hours respectively. Based off of this analysis, the MDO requires that for a full TIA to be conducted, that trip count must be over 1,000 daily trips or 100 peak trip hours, so it's under that threshold, as well as it's significantly under NCDOT's threshold. The village engineer has reviewed those and concurs with the findings of that technical memorandum. I'll also note that if the Meadowlark Lane access is infeasible, the applicant would be allowed to establish to access the site there at the cul-de-sac off of Newtown Road, and that would be done through the minor modification process because they're not changing lot yield or any of that such. Stormwater and drainage, they have reduced it down from two stormwater ponds to one. Once again, if the rezoning is approved per Article 19, all developments disturbing over an acre of land or more, of land and having a net increase in pervious built upon area exceeding 24% would have to provide stormwater detention to control the peak runoff from the 2, 25, 50, and 100-year and 24-hour storm events to the pre-development numbers. So Once again, if their rezoning gets approved, they would have to then submit that documentation for the village to review as part of their construction documents, as well as obtain applicable permits from NCDEQ on post-construction stormwater. Water and sewer, they are proposing obviously to utilize public Union County or public Union water and sewer where they would access off of an existing manhole there off of Meadowlark Lane to gravity feed. We already discussed the easement there, but that would be something that they would have to obtain if the rezoning is approved. And once again, if they are unable to obtain that, then therefore their only other option would be looking to do some type of septic system, which would then probably completely change this plan, and they would be back here going through the basically through the same process to amend this site-specific plan. Finally, so the applicant held their neighborhood meeting back in February on Wednesday, February 25th. That neighborhood meeting report and all that is provided in your guys' planning board packets. Once again, most of the stuff that that was discussed at the last planning board meeting was similar comments that was received from the residents that attended that meeting. But it's also included in your packets for review. So last housekeeping things is that I mentioned this earlier, any conditional zoning requires a development agreement. They're in the process of finalizing their draft to send to the village to review. That'll be a part of the application or part of the consideration at the next meeting. And that's about it. So staff is in the process. We will be at the June meeting. We'll have that development agreement. We will also be providing a draft statement of consistency and reasonable statement, which is required for any rezoning. We'll draft that for you, and once again, you guys can use the staff recommended one or not, but we always provide that for the planning board to consider. Other than that, that's really like I said, kind of a high level. Is there any specific questions for me regarding the proposal and compliance?
I have one about the development agreement. So I know primarily development agreements are for the development, the residents that will be in the development, right? And what the builder's going to do. But what Marcus said was, is there a road maintenance agreement? So if they decide they're going to ingress, egress, full movement on Meadowlark, and the farms at Meadowlark own the pavement, how does that get put into a development agreement?
So that was discussed with the applicant, and this is kind of the intent of the rest of this agenda items, really, than to start thinking through some of these recommended conditions, and that would be one that we could propose. But at least you want to, I know Rob's already had that conversation with me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mark. When I met with Meadowlark as part of my sell to them, if you will, was that we would maintain Meadowlark, that we would be responsible for maintaining the section of Meadowlark Road from basically where the roundabouts start, where the DOT road is, all the way down to the end of the Lett property, so that we would maintain all that.
That's for after the development is completed.
That's correct. Yes, if we were approved for development, it would be part of our agreement,
Right.
and that we would do that.
Is there a term to it, or is it inevitable?
We would what we would do as far as how would we maintain it, it would be maintained by the HOA, is that?
So it would be that agreement would be put onto the HOA, that they would have to.
Yeah, and what it does is, we end up, as part of the HOA dues, we created a fund that, and it basically is enough to fund that. So, and we do a study on that. It's not something we just randomly pick a number of it. We have an engineering firm come in and say, this will be the cost to, one, maintain the road, and two, over the life of the road, if we have to go back and repave it. That's just like we'll do that. If we were to have any private communities or a gated community, we create reserve funds, and the HOA, the members of the HOA pay into it each year, and it accrues through the years.
Sort of further than clarify on that, like I said, the village can hold like the developer responsible in that sense. And, any type of supplemental, like third-party agreement between the developer and Meadowlark or the HOA or the, HOA of this subdivision of Meadowlark would just be, we could put language in the development agreement or in the conditions, but that's a third-party agreement that we can't bind them to, because it's not, that development agreement is between the village and the developer itself.
So I know at one time there was an initiative for Marvin to acquire roads. Would this qualify as one?
I don't want to go down that route.
It would if it were not a private easement.
Yeah,
It's
it's one of these that it's, like I said, the Meadowlark had, the road itself, there's a lot of history and different documentation of it. And that's, you know, was discussed at the last meeting that is in a way a civil thing between the residents of Meadowlark and the developer. Either way, if, like I said, based off this current plan, they would have, if that is not then settled or determined, then the applicant would then just have their access off of Newtown Road there where the cul-de-sac's at. It's just that the access being off of Meadowlark with Newtown Road being a primary road and the amount of cars on that daily, DOT would rather have it on the secondary side road. But ultimately, they only maintain up until right here. So, I mean, if DOT could, because it's public, no, my mouse on there? Where'd that go? Yeah, so right in here, where my mouse is at, is where the DOT right-of-way ends, and they would potentially be able to access it off of that public right-of-way.
Any other questions? All right, moving on, thank you.
Yep, so, like I said, at the next meeting, we'll have this ready for you guys to make your recommendation, and we'll go from there. See you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we are moving on to new business.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Switching gears real quick, to.
Is this on
Mar-
the agenda?
Well, to Marvin Commons. So Hunter called me roughly 3 weeks ago and said you guys had some concerns about the elevations, the consistency of what was shown as a rendering.
Very different than what we were presented, and that was the question, really. It was just a 360 on design.
Well, yeah, so Hunter reached out to me, and I am not a design person, trust me. So I went to our design folks, and I've asked them to come back with some ideas, thoughts, explanation, that kind of stuff, so that I could sit in front of you guys and go through and answer any questions or, you know, do whatever we need to do. I move a little quicker than they do, so if you'll just give me 60 days, I promise you I'll have
Yeah,
comments
appreciate
and
that.
stuff. But I did want to let you know that he reached out to me 3 weeks ago, and I started the process that time, but again, they work at a little
Are they an
different.
outside agency or they're an internal agency for you, or internal, like, design?
How many what?
Are your design individuals, are they internal or are they an outside design firm?
Both. We have a woman who's an architect for us in Jacksonville, Florida, and then we have an internal design team that works with her, and there's 5 people on that team. And because we're private, we need that, because we don't have, we're not like a national builder and we have stuff on the shelf. We like to design stuff for each project if possible, try to make it consistent with where we're building. So in conjunction with her, she's the one who does all of our architectural stuff for all of our designs, and then she goes to the design team. And, you know, Florida's different than North Carolina, so,
Yeah.
you know, that was a learning process for them in the beginning.
I think the biggest thing was just, it was pretty shocking, like, having the white European, you know, it was a very specific design. I thought it was lovely. And then what we saw was very different than what we were presented. So I think it was just the contrast. It was just,
The color thing
we're just kind of wondering, like, what happened to the old design? Where is it? Like, why is it not still a thing? So, but thank you for following up, and we'll just
So
wait.
if you guys will give me 60 days, I promise you, I will they have promised me, so we will have something to you no later than mid-July, hopefully before.
Yeah, Rob,
Okay.
thank you for looking into that. We, you know, Marvin, and I think Kelly said this when a project was approved, townhomes are not something all the residents want. So making them look more like that original with that French country style architecturally, I think would help kind of smooth over.
Okay. I'm not going anywhere whether y'all want me to or not. I like doing stuff here in Marvin, so I want to do the right thing. So
We
just give-
appreciate that, thank you.
Give me 60 days, okay?
Okay,
All right,
thanks.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
All right, moving on to discussion of CZ 2026-2 Marvin School Road Single Family. We are not voting on this tonight. I guess we are seeing an updated plan.
This
And can
is,
you-
this is the first time you guys are seeing this plan.
We haven't actually seen something on this particular property before?
Mm-mm. No. There was a neighborhood meeting there, so, yeah.
Oh, we saw maybe a preliminary,
Let me, yeah. I'll
okay,
answer-
go
okay.
ahead. You give the background.
So no, this is the first time you were seeing this submission. The village received a rezoning application actually like last July from the applicant Manny, who's sitting right up here. He purchased this property from Mr. Thomas Vickery, which is probably what you may be referring to. So if you recall, about a year and a half ago, so in the fall of '24, after the MDO was adopted, a gentleman seeked rezoning from rural residential to SFR1. It was the 5.6 acres that was originally listed prior to the MDO, and then it was taken off, and either way, it was in,
One little white piece of paper with like line drawings on it.
yeah, because
Yeah.
because that was a conventional standard rezoning. So it was one of those that kind of showing what, if the rezoning, which was ultimately approved to SFR1, what it could be. This is now being proposed, so it's 3 different properties, and they're proposing a conditional zoning for, a residential subdivision that's a site-specific plan. So this is the first time you guys are seeing this, basically kind of a neighborhood meeting specifically for you guys. So I'm gonna kind of turn it over to the applicant and their team, right now to kind of go through the proposal. Once again, no action's being taken tonight. This will kind of be following the same process as the LET rezoning, so at the next meeting, they'll come back with potentially some revisions based off feedback received. I'll have more of a detailed staff report, and then potentially either at that meeting or your July meeting, you will be able to make a recommendation on the rezoning, so.
So just to clarify, this is currently an SFR1, so it was rezoned from rural residential to SFR1.
So it's 3 properties. 2 of the 2 properties that make up like 5.6 acres is zoned SFR1. The 3rd property that's like 3 acres or a little over is still zoned rural residential. So it'd be, yeah.
Okay,
So,
I'll stop talking so that you
No
can
worries.
get to it.
all right.
Sorry.
You are fine. Well, thank you. Council member, planning board members, Hunter, thank you for having us tonight. I'm Paul Pinnell with Urban Design Partners, representing the petitioner here for CZ 2026-2 along Marvin School Road. I'll help to kind of clarify what's going on out here momentarily. There's really not too much material to cover. Just to give you a little bit of understanding as to the location of the site, really it's just south of the intersection of Marvin School Road and Joe Kerr Road. As Hunter had previously said, the site is approximately 9.46 acres on GIS, but from a survey that we've obtained, the survey is actually 9.54. 3 parcels, as Hunter had previously explained. 2 homes on the site. The site is actually split zone between SFR1 and rural residential. Currently, we're just looking to rezone this site to SFR2 for the development of a single-family detached neighborhood with 12 homes. There's 1 existing home on site today. Let's see, does this have a laser pointer? No laser pointer? The top button? Okay. There's 1 existing home today. That home is, thank you, Hunter. That home is slated to remain, so it'll be the construction of 11 new single-family detached homes. The homes will be served by a private road. It'll be a gated community off of Marvin School Road. As you enter in off of Marvin School Road, you'll go left if you are visiting friends or neighbors to call them, or you'll continue on straight to the gate where the gates will open and you'll be able to enter. Off to the left of that gated entry, you'll see a mail kiosk. That'll be the community mail kiosk where people can pull off and collect their mail as they're coming and going from the community. Moving into the community, each home site will be served by 2 driveway cuts. You'll have a nice loop road until you get to the cul-de-sac at the end, where it'll just be a simple in and out from your side load garage. Let me jump ahead a little bit here, might explain a little bit more of the environmental impacts that we are proposing on site as well. The site today is mostly treed, with the exception of the 2 home sites today. We are proposing substantial buffering between the proposed development and the existing single-family neighborhood plan north. Also, substantial buffering and screening along Marvin School Road to create a nice landscape buffer between the cars going by and the residential neighborhood being planned here. In addition, this is being considered a low-impact development. We would like for this to be not mass graded. The plan here is for this to be a low-impact neighborhood where the road basically gets cut in along the ridge line that's out there, and then the homes would be not slab-on-grade construction. These would actually be crawl space homes. So you may have some homes that are, located on site during construction to make sure that they fit as well as they possibly can on the lot. So you could have some topography that falls across the actual home itself, where maybe it's 1 foot of crawl on one side of the home, and it could fall across, and it could be 6 feet of crawl space on one side of the home, just to make sure that we can fit these in and maintain as many trees and have the least amount of impact on site as possible. So with that, oh, wait, no, I'm not done. I've got a couple more things here. We do have a question slide here, but we did, the architect did provide some architectural renderings of the homes that the petitioner would like to explore here. And if you have any questions about those materials or the designs, happy to answer them. I'll do the best I can. The architect is not here tonight. And then also, we prepared a slide as well. Some of you were at the community meeting a few weeks ago, and we wanted to codify some of that feedback that we had received from that community meeting. For clarity, we have not revised the site plan based on this feedback yet. We wanted to come here tonight, present the presentation, present the petition to you, and have that discussion and gather your feedback as well prior to revising the site plan. Mostly the concerns at the community meeting were regarding the widths of buffers and screening adjacent single-family homes, screening along the entry on Marvin School Road. There were stormwater concerns. There is a drainage swale on site that was a concern on how we're going to manage this stormwater on site. If it's a low-impact developments that remain 24% BUA and below don't have to have a stormwater pond, which is why we're not showing one on this particular plan. And then also, I think the concern about the size of the lots related to the one DUA, and I think Hunter might talk about that just a little bit if you guys have some questions, the one DUA character of Marvin. So, and with that, that's the presentation, and happy to open it up to any questions you all may have. Or, Hunter, if you have a spiel that you have to go through.
So, no, so like I said, this is your initial opportunity to kind of ask some questions, solicit feedback. Like I said, this plan has not changed from their neighborhood meeting that was held. It's been, have had a meeting with the applicant and his team regarding staff feedback as well as that neighborhood feedback. So it does seem like they are potentially looking at some changes to this to kind of address some of those concerns that were brought up. But ultimately wanted to get in front of planning boards and once again see if you guys have some of the same questions or feedback that's already been received thus far.
I do appreciate the summary and the intent of not full tree clearing. Thank you for even proposing that. I will say that when the SFR1 was that middle property, was that ever rural residential, or did it get?
It's a yes and no answer.
Then tell me both then.
So prior to the MDO being adopted, in the recommendation from that left planning board with that zoning map, it was SFR1. At the adoption of the MDO by the council adopted the MDO as amended, and it changed, I think, 5 or 6 properties from SFR1 to rural residential. Mm-hmm. Those 2 properties that are now zoned SFR1 were changed to rural residential. So that's why it's a yes and no answer. It was officially zoned rural residential when we adopted the MDO and that our new zoning map, but then it was rezoned in, like I said, I think it was September of 2024.
They requested to go back to SFR1.
Correct.
Okay, that's where my memory was. That's what I thought. Okay. And that was considered a grandfathered, letting them rezone.
Yeah, the reason why it was originally being designated as SFR1 in the initial draft was because the property was for sale. And there was a lot of phone calls that I gave information to property owners based off of our Marvin Residential District at the time, which is what is closely aligned with SFR1. The reason that it was changed is because then the property went off the market for a second. And then when they put it back up for sale, they were still under the impression they were zoned R Marvin Residential, which is, like I said, what is now SFR1. And that's why the applicant came to seek the rezoning back to SFR1, just for having that right that he had prior to the MDO.
Anyone have any questions? Go ahead.
Paul, did I get that correct?
Yes.
All right. Hi, I'm Kristen.
Hi, good seeing you again.
It's nice to see you again. So can you tell me what percentage of impervious surface you guys, the architect, has said?
That is an excellent question, and I wish I had that exact number for you, and I do
Okay.
not.
All right, is that something you could provide to Hunter and he
It-
can share?
Absolutely will be,
Okay,
yes.
great.
And Kristen, to also clarify on that, this is one thing that we can, once again, a specific condition that for the development, that even though, because you can run into a situation where, yeah, they're proposing for it to be under 24%, and they build it, then a homeowner wants to do X, Y, and Z to their property. So a specific condition for this proposed development could be that impervious maximum, and it would probably be divvied up. We'd have to figure out that calculation of which each lot would have an allotment of impervious area that would be allowed. And then that would then be something that's governed by the rezoning plan, the development agreement, and carried on after the fact, after the developer would, develop the property and build the homes. So,
Similar to the preserve.
yes, but the one with the preserve, though, is not necessarily governed by the village because that's part of your post-construction permit. This, like I said, because it's being noted that, we can put that as a specific condition, which would then be governed by the village.
Okay, so even more stringent. Well, thank you for doing that. And the reason I'm pushing for that a little bit, and just to give you some insight, is running this through AI, which is not an architect, I'll say that right now. If you average the 4,500 square feet, which was what was discussed in the community meeting, it actually, including the roads, puts it at about 29%. Now, again, that may not be accurate, AI is not an architect, but that's why I was curious. So I appreciate you providing that.
Can I provide a little bit of clarity on the 4,500 square feet? So the 4,500 square feet, these are going to be two-story homes. So
Understood.
the footprint, okay, all right.
Yeah, no, understood. And I
That might have been the deviation.
And then 1 acre lots are extremely important to Marvin residents. And as I talk to more and more neighborhoods, I continue to hear that echoed. Have you guys reviewed with NCDOT what would be allowed on that curve with the SFR1 if this moved forward at the SFR2? Or if it did not move forward at SFR2?
So I don't believe that NCDOT is going to be concerned with the zoning designation. What NCDOT is going to be most concerned about is our point of access along Marvin School Road. And in terms of safety, wanting to move the access point as far away from that curve in the road, that's what NCDOT is going to require.
So you had mentioned at the community meeting that if you didn't get SFR2, and correct me if I'm wrong, that then you guys would do driveways along.
That's
so
correct.
that was the impetus for my question.
Thank you. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
reminding me of that.
Sorry, I buried the lead there.
So we have not discussed with NCDOT yet
Okay.
on the concept of just doing residential driveways, although I do know that NCDOT can't not allow access to a lot based on NCDOT roads. But I think probably what we would have to do is we'd have to have that dialogue, see if they're accepting of residential driveways just right along the road, and then see if there are any unsafe conditions. That's just a hypothetical that we haven't worked through yet.
Gotcha. No, understood. I was just curious. Thank
And
you.
yeah, to clarify there, as mentioned, like DOT, you can't, if they were to do it through a by right process based off the current zoning, and it got platted, and then those lots individually sold or some concept that DOT has to allow access for those lots to be developed. The only thing that really the village can do, which we have done this, but it's still kind of up to DOT's discretion, would be to, during that by right process and as they provide or, prepare a final plat, would be to have some type of shared drive access easement platted as part of that, but that's still That's something that, it's not something that we can require. It's not something DOT maybe in a way can require it, because if they sign off on it as, since it is abutting, like I said, that's where we kind of caught it before, but it can be recommended and discussed for sure. It's just, I don't want to make any absolutes saying that if they go through the by right process, it's not 100% certain that they would have shared access, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just want to say that there is an option that it can be explored further, as Paul was mentioning.
No, thank you. I think just wanting to understand, is it a safety hazard if it goes by right? That way we can vet the importance of what we look at here or put in conditional zoning versus whether or not we leave by right.
Hunter, I actually think the safest condition for accessing Marvin School Road is the configuration where it is, because you have a nice driveway cut. You have as you're driving along, you can see the driveway cut, and also it has the greatest view corridor as well. So I think that's probably the safest condition. Individual residential driveways along Marvin School Road, I think, would be a less safe condition. But of course, we don't have a configuration to evaluate that, but.
So one of the reasons, just to give you a little bit of background, one of the reasons that we implemented the rural residential was to try and preserve as many of the rural lots as possible. And because this has two of those, technically three, because that middle one is of the acreage to have been a rural residential lot, even though it was quote-unquote grandfathered in. What's the reason for the 12 homes and not 9 or bigger estate homes with 3 acres?
I mean, there are financial metrics here for the owner of the property and the petitioner. And I think when they approached us to do a design, it was how can we configure and do a balance between open space on site and buffers and lot yield. And we arrived at the 12.
And I mean, actually, I think the homes look beautiful. I think you have a thoughtful design here. My biggest issue really is that this really should be rural residential, and now we're looking at an SFR 2
And
rezoning. So
I just want to clarify on 2 points. So the SFR2 zoning is mainly, this is a conditional zoning, so even though it's quote-unquote SFR2, it's not necessary, they would still be locked into the site-specific plan. So it's mainly, the way I like to say it is SFR2 gives them the flexibility on the lot size to do this configuration. Yes,
but
it
we're
is
still
still.
talking about 12 homes as
No,
opposed to
no.
9
I was about to say, it's still being proposed at
Or
a
5.
higher density than 1 house per acre. And that's been noted, and that's, staff pointed that out in our initial review and recommendation, as well as that stuff that came up during the neighborhood meeting. I just wanted to, if this was a true SFR2, they could probably squeeze another few lots in there if they wanted to, but they.
So you're saying that the zoning, you're saying the SFR2 zoning triggers the conditional zoning?
No, the conditional zoning is
I
something.
don't understand why the conditional zoning, I know we can ask for conditional zoning, they can agree to it, but why the SFR2 then?
Because the minimum lot size for SFR2 is 17,680 or something like that. I don't have it right in front of me, but it's essentially about a half acre, a little under. And that's the minimum. And so if they were to propose like an SFR1 CZ, like I said, basically the SFR2 CZ gives them the flexibility in the lot size, but it's still then a site-specific plan. So if this was a conventional rezoning to SFR2, I'd be telling you and looking at you and saying, hey, or the applicant, like, hey, good luck, but probably not going to get approved, because if they get the zoning to SFR2, then anything SFR2 is by right. They could squeeze as many as they want, never come back to you guys. The conditional zoning aspect of that provides where it's a site-specific plan. So then they wouldn't, if what's being proposed right now were to get approved, they wouldn't be able to then do a bait and switch type thing where they would be able to squeeze more lots, because it's a site-specific plan that's capped at the 12 lots.
I said this is a Marvin corridor though, so I do think this, I don't know, this is gonna be tough.
And same thing with rural residential, and just the other thing I wanted to,
I don't know, but everyone has their right to apply, so, you know.
the other thing I want to clarify, and I know this came up, is that when we were going through the MDO process, which I know both of you were a part of, we came up with the rural residential district with kind of a bunch of different kind of intents, but the main one was that, yes, to protect, but also to have a say, to where it pushed applicants that wanted to further develop their property really to have to go through the rezoning process. Hope everything's okay.
I thought that was a bagpipe. I'm sorry. I was like, why is there a bagpipe coming?
I thought it was a train for a moment. I'm like, train.
Because what we were seeing under the old ordinance is you had, subdivisions, not necessarily metalwork, because you guys have an HOA that governs that a little bit better.
We have
but-
deed restrictions.
But there's other subdivisions that were also platted around that same time that didn't have as strict covenants or an HOA that's enforcing those. And they were coming and doing minor subdivisions, which, once again, are all by right. There's nothing that I could legally say if this was all SFR1 right now and they wanted to come and do 5 lots, or that was kind of the intent under the original rezoning, they could. And so that was part of the reason when we started discussing the rural residential district, was really to kind of have a holding district to really push where rezonings became part of the process, where we had to say at the table. Yes, it was also the intent of trying to preserve and protect existing rural neighborhoods, but not necessarily take away certain rights. It still goes through the process, but the goal is to get the best end product, which is the best and highest fit for what is for that area. I'm not saying that this is it. I'm just saying, for clarification, that it was really intended to get a seat at the table to make sure what's being proposed fits the surrounding area and fits kind of what the village's vision is.
I think this is a nice plan. I think it would be a nice plan for the Heritage District, but that's not where it is. So, but I do think that you guys have done a lovely job of, everything looks really nice. But I hear what you're saying, but for me, rural residential was to protect rural residential, so, and I will die on that hill. Do you guys have any other questions for the applicants? We're not voting, this is just feedback and information going both ways. All right, well, this is a lovely plan, so, thank you all for presenting it.
Thank you.
We'll see you, I guess, back in June.
Thank you, guys, and I'll follow up with you later this week on getting everything ready for next month.
Planners report?
Don't really have any.
Okay. We don't have any action items, unless someone just wants to really take a task on. I guess Chris never came on? Okay. Then we will go board member comments, and Bob, if you'd like to start us off, you've been really rowdy this session, so.
No, I'm good, thank you.
All right, Kristen?
Yes, I would like to discuss the resident who spoke tonight's comments. The first thing I'd like to say is for the public to know that the village does not provide planning board members with any type of device. So for us to review the agenda packet, which is typically around 100 to 150 pages, versus what's on our screens, we do have to have a personal device. And my personal choice is my phone. Secondly, I would hope in this day and age that we would not shame mothers for being available, especially working mothers, to their children, which is another reason I have to have a phone at the dais. On a more positive note, I would like to thank Weddington Chase's HOA board, as well as their president, CJ, for meeting with me about 2 weeks ago. It was a wonderful discussion about development, and I appreciated their insights, with their top concerns being open space, 1 acre lots, concerns about traffic, and then also really a hope that Marvin will focus on Marvin Gardens for commercial versus other commercial expansions in order to help that area thrive, as they see that as important to that corridor. I look forward to talking more to the Heritage at Marvin District, and I appreciate the residents that spoke with me after one of the meetings the other night. And I look forward to setting up that time that you requested. Thank you.
All right. Staff, thank you. And do we have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? All right, we're adjourned.